to number one, you need to save up to go to Hajj because it's a pillar of Islam. We cannot get around it, but within your capacities, make Umrah. You know what I mean? I used to make it a habit every day that I would go to the masjid like 2 hours before Fajr and work my way into the Rawdah. Half the stuff I didn't realize till later on, like the Garden of Fatima, I didn't realize that whole, raised, because I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the stuff you're mentioning
all these
right
weird
now.
things, you know what I mean? Like, why is there a bookshelf right here and there's this raised wooden platform on the other side of where the Prophet ﷺ is buried, not realizing that used to be the Garden of Fatima, that was gifted to her.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everybody. Today we're going to do the first podcast of Travel Umrah. Our podcast name is the Pilgrim Experience. And we actually have a very special guest with us today who flew all the way from the United States, Minnesota. He had a few things to do over here, but alhamdulillah, we managed to get him for a few moments to spend with us to kind of benefit the people, the viewers of our podcast, inshallah. And Brother Yusha, you want to...
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, so what it is, the aim of this podcast is kind of trying to give you guys a insight if you haven't been Umrah already, but also a kind of like reflections from people who have. So I myself, I've been Travel Umrah. We have a few people in the background, Anha and Rahim at the background, who will also come in when they need to. They'll interject, but mainly so Brother Yusha is our main guest, and he's been Umrah many times. And he'll give us his reflections and the benefits he took from Umrah and how he actually started. So, I mean, a lot of you brothers and sisters might already know that Brother Yusha actually reverted to Islam. Brother Yusha, when did you actually first revert to Islam?
1998.
1998. So that's about 24 years ago. 24 years ago.
24 years.
Alhamdulillah. And how long after was it that you went to Umrah when you first started to actually think about Umrah?
I didn't go for Umrah for the first time until 2003. 2003, the first time.
Yeah.
The very first time I went. And then I started going regularly from 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012. I think I went Umrah once every year, and then I went Hajj once during that time as well.
Okay, so so after your first experience, you went there pretty much every single year.
Yeah.
And you came back, which is subhanAllah, like a lot of people don't actually get that opportunity to go for that many years. So what triggered it? What was the first thing? Because obviously when you're a new revert, the first thing you kind of think about is how to do how to actually practice your 5 pillars of Islam, how to pray, how to, all these sort of stuff. But then later on, you might actually start thinking about, okay, Umrah, I want to think about going there. So you said, what year was the first time?
2003.
2003. So that was after about 5 years after.
Yeah.
So after you went, what was your first kind of impression?
I first initially wanted to go just because, I had accepted Islam in 98, studied about the deen, heard all of these things about, Umrah and Hajj, and I wanted some sense of reality. Like for me, the first time when I went subhanAllah to Mecca, because the first time I went was Mecca to Medina, and then after that, all of my succeeding trips was Medina and then Mecca. So the first time we went straight to Mecca, and going into the Haram for the first time, walking King Fahd Gate and then going up the stairs and going down. And then when you make that when you start coming down that first set of stairs where you can see the Kaaba, it kind of hit me then, this is real. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like this deen is real. Like I can go back and point out the places where revelation was made, where the Kaaba was built. So it was just kind of that thing that solidified everything for me. Mm-hmm. Like things you read about in storybooks about Mecca, and, going and doing, especially after going to the Kaaba and doing the ziyarah around and seeing where the first revelation took place, seeing where, the house of Arqam was, seeing all of these places. With the house of Arqam now, you have to go see it between Safa and Marwa. Yeah. So it just knowing all of this, that like these are real, like where the Prophet ﷺ was born, like it gives you
just for you basically it came alive.
It gives the deen that extra layer of realness. Mm-hmm. Before it was I believed these things, but I'd never seen them with my own two eyes. Now so it's quite different.
Were you nervous at all? Going there for the first time?
I wouldn't say nervous, apprehensive. You know what I mean? Because you don't know how you're gonna feel the first time you go to the Haram and you see the Kaaba. You know what I mean? There's no way to prepare yourself for that feeling. To see the Kaaba for the first time and realizing, number one, how big it is. You know, like this is a huge thing, and just being able to be in the Haram.
Yeah, because what happens is you see it in pictures and it looks pretty small in pictures.
Yep.
And when you see it, you actually realize it. Wow, it's actually.
It's not only big, but it just has this aura. You know what I mean? Like there's just this vibe and feeling. And there's a different vibe and feeling from the masjid in Mecca, from the Haram in Mecca to the Haram in Medina as well. It's just a completely different experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, this one, a lot of people say, right? So they say that when they first saw the Kaaba, they actually, they were in tears. So for if I give you an example for myself, so many people have said that I didn't really, I wasn't in tears or anything. But for me, it was more like, wow, like I'm here. I'm finally here. It was like a breath of fresh air for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was in tears, but I did stop the first time at the bottom of that first set of stairs going there. I don't know how the Haram is now. I haven't been since they've done all of this.
Yeah.
But, just seeing it, I stopped for a minute, and just take it in, like, this is it, you know, before we start doing the rites of Umrah. So to me, it was an experience. And I remember my first time there, I don't think I slept very much during that whole Umrah trip, except the bus ride from Mecca to Medina. I would get up late in the night and go to the Haram and sit on just the roof, sit on the top floor, where the locusts are and all that. Because I think that first time I went was locust season because they were everywhere.
Yeah.
But just sitting there, just enjoying, overlooking and seeing the Kaaba and seeing the fact that back then, at least, like seeing that there was tawaf going on 24/7, 365. The only time it stopped was time for Salah. It was a big deal.
So who did you go with? I asked this because you have different feelings when you're with your family.
I went by myself.
You went by yourself.
Yeah.
So I can only imagine what kind of reflections that you were having. I don't know. Can you what would you say was your biggest benefit from the first time you went that you took from there?
Just giving me that solidification that I needed from studying the Deen and being a revert from the West. And before that, I had never went anywhere. Before going to Haram, I had never left the country. Before going for Umrah for the first time. So the first time leaving the country to go to be able to see, the Haramain was a big deal to me.
So out of all the times that you went, which was the most significant for you and why?
Well, the first one's always going to have significance the first time, but it's also not the most memorable time for me. I think the most memorable time for me was probably my third or fourth time going, where I had an opportunity. There was a brother who I knew through a mutual friend who would bring like a lot of celebrities. That he was responsible for like when Mike Tyson went and so he had a lot of connections. And so when I went one time, he set me up with a VIP tour in Medina. Like I was able to go to Medina and go underground and see because the old, they keep old parts of the masjid that they're underground. And they have like a little museum down there, and also going to be able to see like the room where they do all the controls for the roof and stuff like that. It's like, like Mission Impossible.
See, I mean, a lot of people don't see that because we see it on social media. Like when Haramain, when they post, we see like the gold mic and everything. But obviously, not everybody can see it.
To see it in person.
Yeah. Not everybody can see it.
And being able on that trip to sit down, like I had a special session with Sheikh Hudayfi at the time. That was also when I made close connections and friends with Sheikh Abdullah Shinqiti. And that same trip. He invited me to a meeting of all the scholars of Mauritania. I think I told you that trip, that story maybe one time.
You must have mentioned
it. So that was a very, very memorable time for me, alhamdulillah.
A question did come into my head actually, but now it flew out. I mean, so it was the third time.
Yeah, that was probably the third or fourth time, one of those times. And that also, like I fell in love with Medina. Like I love Mecca. Mecca is a beautiful place, but it's busy. Hustle and bustle. Like it's always, especially if you leave the Haram area, it's just like madness. Which is the way Mecca's always been. It's been like a center of hustle and bustle. When you go to Medina, there's just a tranquility about it.
I do see what you mean. So you prefer staying in Medina first and then go to Mecca. See, I prefer the opposite. I prefer to go Mecca first and then Medina. And the reason being is that for me, I feel like, our intention generally is that obviously we want to go Umrah and we want to be forgiven for all of us in Umrah Hajj. We want to be forgiven. We want a clean slate, right? So I would think that I want to start there. I want to completely, use up all my energy, asking Allah for His forgiveness. And after that period where I have, I think obviously going to Medina, the repentance continues, the tawbah continues, but I feel like there, there's a lot of, virtue. There's a lot of opportunity to make dua. Like for example, when you make tawaf and make dua. Because what I can say is, me personally, in my life, right, there was a few characteristics that I didn't like about myself, right? And one of them being anger, right? And it was something that I was very confused, like, how do I tackle this? And this was pretty early on when I first started practicing. So I remember in Tawaf, there was two specific dua that I made. One, I'm going to keep it a bit, to myself. But the other one that I made for the benefit of other people is that for Allah to completely remove my anger, right? Like to remove my anger completely, right? So I made that. And when I came back to UK, the same things that would agitate me usually, it wasn't agitating me anymore. The same thing, so for me, I found that, making dua at that time, really pushing and making dua at that time was very useful to me. So, and then I go to Medina, be a bit more relaxed, see the city, spend time in Masjid Nabawi, reciting and so on. So that's how I feel about it.
And I always recommend for people who are going the first time, go to Mecca first. You know what I mean? Like, you want that to be your first experiences to see the Haram and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just choose when I have the choice to do it the other way around, because if not, when I go to Mecca, I'm thinking about Medina. If I haven't been to Medina yet, I just can't wait. And I feel bad about that feeling, because this is the most beloved place on earth to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in Mecca. And plus, I like to be able to, when I come from Medina, you're able to stop and get put on ihram and everything like that. And I'm not having to do it on the plane.
Yeah, that's true. That's
true. I feel more of that experience, when you especially that one major where the Prophet ﷺ stopped. I forget the name of the Sa'i place. But anyway, just doing that and being able to do it gives me that experience.
I agree. For the brothers and sisters who do not know, what it is, there's at one point you need to be ready wearing your ihram. So if you go from straight to Mecca, you need to do that on the airplane. There's like a radius, right?
Yeah, before you even land.
Right? You need to get ready. So usually the airline tell you, okay, it's coming up soon.
The plane is madness at that point.
Yeah, that's why it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. So everybody's trying to get ready and so on. Yeah. So I'm not sure. Did we wear it before we got onto the plane?
No, I think we did it on the plane.
We did it on the plane.
We did it I think we stopped by
Riyadh.
I think it was Riyadh.
Yeah, we stopped.
We stopped by somewhere else, so we changed there. I can't remember actually.
Yeah, it was.
I've been a few times.
Yeah. So I mean, this we're talking about going back in 2016. So the last time I went was in 2016. So yeah, whereas what Brother Yusha is talking about is that if you're in Medina, then you can comfortably get ready. Yeah. There's specific places where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did it.
Do it as well.
So, which is obviously an experience, So yeah, I completely understand that. I mean, a question I had specifically for somebody like yourself who went many times, right? So it's going to be quite normal for you to go perform Umrah, feel that vibe, be very high in Iman and come back. And obviously at the beginning your Iman will be high, but it's inevitable that slowly it will go down just because of, how things are, right? Now, obviously, some people, they might have regrets. Like, for example, that the feeling of, after Ramadan, your good deeds not continuing, it could be a sign that maybe your Ramadan is not accepted. So, those sort of stuff start coming into your head, right? So, what did you do each time to make sure that you don't fall into that position where your Iman kind of dips?
It's going to after a period of time, regardless.
Yeah, regardless.
Because Iman increases and decreases. This is why, we continuously do acts of goodness. This is why it's Ramadan every single year. This is why we pray 5 times a day, like to keep all of those things. It's only inevitable that after leaving the Haram of Mecca and Medina after a while, the goal is you don't want that to happen right away. The scholars say that, if you notice that you, right after Ramadan, like literally right after Ramadan, you go back to being the same person you were before Ramadan, it's a very bad sign.
Yeah, very
But
bad.
if that happens over a period of time, like, 2, 3, 4 months, that's a different story. That's just the sign of why we look towards Ramadan every single year, or we look towards being able to go to Hajj or make Umrah. Because a lot of people also have a false impression that they're going to go make Hajj and they're going to just be in completely different person.
Yeah.
No, this is just a stepping stone and an ability. Now you've left Hajj or Umrah, with your sins forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now it's your job to try to consistently work on not building those sins back up too quickly. But you want to make sure that it's not right away. But you should never feel bad that, right now Ramadan is what? We're 2 months away from Ramadan?
Yeah, so April.
So less than 3 months away from Ramadan, and it's like you can feel it like it's been a year since Ramadan. It's like we're looking forward to it now. That's why I went back year after year after year for a period of my life, because I just felt like every year this helped me. Because this is also when I was first started traveling and speaking and stuff like that. So like I wanted to make sure that, number one, I was renewing myself every single year. I was sitting with people of high knowledge when I went to Mecca and Medina, like asking questions and things that I needed to know. So this was a kind of a yearly retreat for me. This was my time too. This was me time. I spent the entire rest of the year traveling around the world. So for a month, I would I would normally stay longer than I was supposed to for Umrah. But for that month or whatever have you, that was like my time. And then after that, it's time to get back.
Of course.
Because that would always go in the summer. Speaking wasn't really that, big in the summer. There wasn't a lot of people traveling. The Jamia was out, so the scholars were doing a lot of private sessions or teaching in the Haram. So it was just a good time to be able to go and absorb myself in for a year, and then for the next 11 months, hit the road.
I mean, it's very, for somebody like yourself who goes around, it's quite important to make sure that, your own tarbiyah is, at a level before you can actually go to platforms and speak. And that's, I guess it was that kind of like conditioning yourself kind of, thing.
And I'm well overdue now, but
but inshallah,
the world's so different now.
It's different now. Just even with all these, with Umrah opening recently, we really don't know, will it be open by Ramadan? I mean, I'm planning, inshallah, to go for Ramadan.
We don't even know anymore. Like they, I think it was just not long ago, they took the 6 foot distance or out of the Haram. And then like a week later, they put the same stickers right back down. So it's like, you never know.
You don't know what's going on.
Allah make it easy for us.
I mean,
one thing that scares me tremendously, and that was at the beginning of the pandemic as well, when the Haram was empty, is the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that towards the end of time, Mecca and Medina would be abandoned. There'll be no more Umrah. There'll be no Hajj. There'll be nothing. So
it's scary.
It's scary.
Definitely.
And so many people would think like, oh, how can that happen? We saw it happen like in an instant. The Haram become empty. Doors locked. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that time.
I mean, while we're talking, there was another question that actually came to my head, and it was regarding, like, a lot of people, they want to wait for the time to go. So they will say stuff like, it's not the right time right now. We need to, give it about 2 more years and then I'll go.
And they rack up some more sins to be first.
Exactly. So I mean, for me, it's like
playing chicken.
Exactly. So for me, what I understand from that is that, they're not ready to leave their ways, basically, right? So I mean, what advice would you give to someone that is in that situation? Because I've had people who would do, like, I've spoken to people who are committing some big sins, right? But because their parents they're going with them. So they're saying that, I'm not sure. What do you think I should do, Sabeq? So what advice would you? And I think there's a lot of people in that position.
Well, if it comes to Hajj itself, the Islamic ruling is that once you're capable to go, you need to go. It's sinful not to go if you are capable. For instance, you've saved up the money, you have the time, like, you should go because you have to fulfill that obligation. And if you don't fulfill that obligation when you were able to and you die before fulfilling it, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's going to be the punishment for that. But with regards to Umrah, Umrah, I almost see it as one of those things you do as needed.
Yeah.
It's not terribly expensive to go to Umrah anymore, especially not from the UK. From the States, it's a little more expensive because we had a lot longer. We have to fly. But from here,
how much is it roughly?
From the States?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I haven't been in so long. I wouldn't even guesstimate about that.
I mean, from that time,
maybe about
10 years now.
$2,500, $3,000.
$3,000. So that's probably about $2,000.
Or about 2,200 pounds. Something like that.
So for us, it would probably be £1,200, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a normal stay.
And that's feasible. You know what I mean? That's alhamdulillah feasible. So, you know, I would, my suggestion would be if I could go to Umrah for £1,200 or $1,400, it'd be like whenever I felt that need. You know what I mean? Because you don't need off tremendous amount of time. My 2 weeks off, I'm going to Umrah. You know what I mean? Like, because you're going to come back reinvigorated, refreshed. You know, if I was able to, I would do it every single year still.
I was actually, it's interesting we talk about that because I was actually speaking to someone and we were talking about finances when it comes to going to, you know, going to perform Umrah, for example. We were talking about Umrah specifically. And what it is, we had a discussion about how, you know, going on holidays is expensive, right? And right now, this year, maybe we can't afford it, or, you know, maybe for the rest of the year, we can't afford another holiday. But then what it was for that specific brother, he was saying that how came to planning Umrah, the money just came out of nowhere. So he pulled out, £1,200 for himself out of nowhere.
Because the intention.
And before £1,200, you know, you could go on a decent holiday, enjoy yourself, and come back.
Go to Spain.
Yeah,
and come
exactly.
Back, yeah.
So, and he was saying, you know, he cancelled his holidays that year because he financially, you know, couldn't afford it. But, you know, having that sincere intention, you know,
after you've made Umrah, you would never choose a beach holiday over
being
if you had a choice.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, even though I would love to go sit, you know, like somewhere on a hot beach right now. I'm watching Muslim Bilal stories. He's killing me in Jamaica right now. You know, that's like a thing for me. But if I had the choice, do that or go to Umrah, I'd go to Umrah. I made two, like I've been 5-6 times, but I've also made Umrah 8 times because 2 times I'm coming from the Middle East and I would have a layover in Jeddah. I would schedule that layover in Jeddah to be as long as possible, and I'd go make Umrah.
Okay.
Because you know they used to let you out. They would let you out. You would say, "I have an 8-hour layover. Just want to go make Umrah." They would just give you a little, a little thing, and that's it.
You're good to go.
You go for Umrah.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
Because Umrah literally takes 2-3 hours. In the minimum, you can do it 2-3 hours and knocked out, and then you head back to the airport and boom, you go.
Yeah. So
I always try to take that advantage. Especially if I'm going to the Middle East, I'm like, just fly me through Jeddah, make sure I have like a 5-6 hour layover.
Yeah.
I'm good at
So that's another smart way of actually planning your journey. Like, if you're going to plan to go on holiday, then see if you can get, a stayover in Jeddah before you get there.
I don't know what the rules are anymore.
Yeah, it could.
But I know back then things were a lot more lax.
Yeah.
Especially for Westerners, blue passport, red passport holders, they just like, go.
Yeah.
See you.
So going back, right, there was another question that I had. In terms of when you were going there, what sort of preparations were you doing before going to Umrah?
In reality, before going to Umrah, I just try to make sure I have my affairs in order.
Yeah.
That's it. Have your affairs in order because you want to try to come back with a clean slate, especially when it comes to people. If you have issues with people, like number one, with regards to Hajj, and some scholars say, with Umrah as well, your debts should be squared away, or things like that. Now we know we live in a debt society. We're talking about to other Muslims and things like that. Make sure if you've wronged anybody, try to square it with them, because these are things that can't be forgiven. No harm in to make Umrah or Hajj or anything, because there's justice, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not do justice between you and him over something that has to do with another believer. That's that person's right. So try to square those things away to the best of your abilities. Inshallah.
No, 100%. Because for me, right, when I went Umrah, so I when I first started to practice my religion a bit more, it was around late 2014. I went to university 2015, and that's when I started to. That's when actually I started to straighten my affairs with people. People who I might have had a bit of grudge with. I would, contact them and tell them, look, forgive me for the past days are past now. It was school days, it was college days. So, so when I went for Umrah in 2016, I didn't need to worry about it too much in terms of, because I was quite cautious in terms of things, because I just, squared it off with whoever I can think of, and gave back whoever's rights, I needed to give back. and then so I didn't need to think about it too much. But definitely, like every so often, if you go to Umrah, every so often is something that you definitely need to reevaluate, you know, and see, because you don't know when you actually hurt someone. You know, sometimes you do unknowingly.
Allah knows best. Yeah.
Allah knows best. So, you know, like there's always the message. You do see a lot of brothers and sisters sharing messages saying, you know, if I've hurt you, you know, intentionally or even unintentionally, you know, forgive me, inshallah.
Yeah.
So yeah, especially with like social media platforms, it's easy to ask them. You know,
100%.
you can sit behind the screen and ask them. You know, if you're too shy, which kind of helps us a little bit more, right? And then so it helps us bridge that gap.
And for practical advice, pack very lightly.
Yeah.
Like take a suitcase, a normal size suitcase, but don't put anything in it really, other than what you might need for a day or two.
Yeah.
Because number one, you're gonna buy everything you see there. You know what I mean? Like you need a thobe, you didn't get it. You need these things, you can get them, and you're gonna want to bring back stuff. So I learned that the hard way is literally don't pack anything unless it's something you might need for the first day. Because after that, you're just gonna wanna buy everything you can there.
Yeah, because I think when I went with you, right, that was the last time I went. We bought thobes there, isn't it? You know, the specific type of thobe, the short sleeve thobes and so on. Yeah, like it was kind of a trend back then. So I think we got it there, and you know,
because if not, you end up having to buy another suitcase and bring it all back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the last thing you want to do.
And get prepared for a lot of janazah to like, you know, like there's going to be a janazah after every salah.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's a huge reminder.
After almost every salah, there will be a janazah.
Yeah.
And attending the ones in Mecca are good, but it's also harder to follow to the graveyard in Mecca. Yeah. But in Medina, it's a beautiful thing, especially in the morning. Attend the janazah, go to Baqi. You know what I mean? Because that's the beautiful thing about Medina is no matter who dies in Medina, they get buried in Baqi. Yeah. You know, you could be there for Umrah and you die, and if your family allows you to be buried there, they
that's a dream, Hafi.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
In Medina, you can follow the Janazah as well.
Yeah, it goes right out the masjid door straight to Baqi, because Baqi is right there behind Masjid Nabawi. You can follow the burial there much easier.
So, did you ever go with group? Like at the tours, the usual tours that you?
Yeah, I did a few of those.
Yeah, did you led them?
No.
Okay, so, but you've been.
I've been with them. I've kind of co-led, not so much, you know. But I would go. This was the last few times I went. I would go and make sure the brothers had connection with, you know, some of the senior students of the jam. Now, alhamdulillah, that's become part of like a regular thing that some people do, that like, you know, make sure that it's a guided, not only you do ziyarah, but you sit down with some other ulama and it's usually some senior students from the jamia who meet the Umrah there, or the same in Qura and Mecca or whatnot. But that wasn't really a big thing back then, you know.
So, it was a lot more harder back then.
It was a lot harder,
yeah. So the reason why I ask is because the first and the only time I went with 5 of my friends, right? I went with Anha and a couple of the brothers from uni and school days. So
going to the group's always the best, especially if in the beginning. You know what I mean? Because you have more of a group experience and tour guides, and like you have all of those things get sorted out for you, and that's the best way to do it. You know, after now I've been like, if I wanted to go now, I would literally just book flights and hotels, and like I know where everything is. You know, but if you've never been before, you'll be absolutely lost.
So I think it's good for the people who've never been
to go with a group.
Yeah, but for me, right, I mean, I've never been with a group, obviously, but what I would feel is that there's a lot of restrictions. Like, you know, for example, I was listening to another podcast on Umrah, and they were talking about how you need to be at the lobby at this time. You shouldn't come down to the lobby unless all your room people are ready to go with you and so on. So that kind of restriction can be a bit frustrating sometimes. You might be on point with, you know, getting ready and so on, but you need to be a bit more patient with somebody else, and that can kind of test you. And for me, like, I want that freedom where if I want to leave now, I want to leave now. I want to go to the Haram right now. Does that make sense? So, I mean, I do also see and
nobody's looking for you and trying to find you.
Exactly.
I did go with the group one of my last times, and basically because it was a very good price to go together with the group, but I knew the group, and I was like, dude, once we land, you guys probably will not see me again until it's time to leave.
So I think I
rarely even go to the hotels when I'm there. I'm like, just to get enough sleep as I can. I'll take a nap in the Haram.
Yeah, that's what we did.
You know what I mean? Like,
it's really good.
I would just go take a nap in the Haram when I get tired. Simple as that.
Because the heat does make you really tired, especially in the summer. right? The heat gets you really tired, and I think it's the hottest between at Dhuhr time, and between Dhuhr and Asr, that's the time Sunnah sleep, isn't it?
Qaylula.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
remember the time when we went in?
It was hard to find a spot to sleep. That's how it was. Alhamdulillah, people were making space, and so it was good. Alhamdulillah. So my advice to those of you who do go with friends to perform Umrah is that, you know, have moments to yourself, because it's all good like chilling and so on. You know, you could chill over here, but over there, we between us friends, when I went with my friends, we made an intention that, okay, when we go there, we're gonna split up from each other and have moments on our own. And those moments were really beneficial, because what happens is there's people all around you. You actually start talking to other people, and sometimes, like, you know, I didn't know Arabic, but I was somehow communicating with some guy who knows Arabic, and I just about understood what he said. He just about understood what I said, and it was actually hilarious, and we were just both laughing. And alhamdulillah, it was good. You know, breaking fast, and I'm during Ramadan, so breaking fast with people you don't know and you're probably never gonna see ever again. So alhamdulillah, it's it's a blessing. All right. One of the last things that I want to actually go mention, right? So a lot of people, you know, especially within the Western society, right? They might, say for example, they might have a heartbreak, for example, or they might have some sort of traumatic experience in their life, right? And they resort into a lot of other stuff to kind of get over it. So it could be drugs, you know, it could be all sorts of things. It could be drinking, or all sorts of things. They could kind of resort to it. Now, for me personally, what I would think, you know, Umrah, for example, it would be a great way. Now, bro, Yusha, I know you do your coaching sessions with a lot of people who have had, you know, traumatic experience in their lives and so on. So, you'd know what's more common, what kind of trauma is more common, and so on. I mean, in terms of how Umrah can help trauma, you know, what do you have to say about that?
You know, I think any type of trauma you might go through, you know, a lot of what I'm finding out today is lately is generational trauma that Muslims suffer with from a lot. But you know, if you're having things,
sorry, what do you mean by generational trauma?
I mean trauma that's being passed down from parents to children.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, it becomes a lot of part to play. But you know, I do have a lot of people that come to me that are dealing with more recent trauma, like something's happened to their life. You know, they've lost one of their parents, or they've lost a child, or they've lost a loved one. You know, or they've gotten divorced, and that was a big problem for them to deal with it in their life and process it. Umrah is a good thing because, like I was saying before, like the reason I used to go every year, because it was kind of like a reset. You know, I felt like that was like a point in my life where every year I could make a reset. Like when you go to Umrah, when you come back, you feel like brand new. You feel like, okay, I want to do things differently, or I want to revive what I was doing before. So it is a really good reset, because for you to go to Umrah with good intention, to go to Mecca, to go to Medina, to go to good intention, then you're going to come back with your iman increased. You're going to come back feeling different. It's just, I don't know if I know anybody who said they've ever been to Mecca and Medina and didn't come back different. They didn't come back feeling like they've changed in some way. You know, because you've gone to the Kaaba, you know, which even though we know we have no physical nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world, but you feel like this is as close as I can get to my deen. You know what I mean? Like I'm standing here looking at the Kaaba, like this is it. Walking where all the Anbiya have walked. When you go to Medina, you know, like the Prophet ﷺ is buried right there. Abu Bakr is buried right there. Like, you know, like these figures that you've heard about. So it just gives you that renewal to focus on something other than your struggle.
Because you're physically there.
Yeah.
It's a physical reset.
Yep. It's a physical and mental.
More real than
you don't think about all the things that you're going through at home. Like all that becomes minor.
Yeah.
You know, like all those worries, all those stress, when you stand in front of the Kaaba,
you know, it
becomes minor. You're like, so you're ready to come back, ready to deal with things.
Yeah. So, you know, so definitely, like, you know, if you want that kind of reset, then Umrah is definitely something to consider, you know, because the reality is whatever you try, that's far away from Allah. It will never fill that void. You might do it temporarily. You might feel like, you know, I feel good at right now, you know, I forgot about it, I left it, you know, it's no longer affect me, but it will still be there in your heart. And the only one that can take it away from your heart is Allah. You know, Allah is the only one that can take it away from your heart.
100%.
So He knows you better than you know yourself. So, you know, so yeah, I mean, yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah. So, Brother Yusha, any final remarks you have or anything you want to say before we close off the podcast?
No, an encouragement for everybody to number one, you need to save up to go to Hajj because it's a pillar of Islam. We cannot get around it, but within your capacities, make Umrah. You know what I mean? Because also if you make Hajj and Umrah are different. Hajj is just full on. You know what I mean? From the moment you get there to the moment of Eid, it's like it's full on. It's just so many people. You don't really get a lot of time to do experiences that you would normally do. Like, if you go for Umrah, especially during the slow season, you go for Umrah, which there's very little slow season nowadays, but you actually get a chance to do something. Because after
Hajj takes a few days, right?
Umrah takes a few hours. A few hours. Then after that, you're done. You can go do ziyarah. You can go look at the places in Mecca. You can go to, where the Quran was revealed. You can go do sa'i between Safa and Marwa a few times and see where the house of Arqam was. And the same in Medina. When you go to Medina, you can just... Because when you go during Hajj, even after Hajj, when you go to Medina, it's just madness. It's tough to even get to pray inside Masjid Nabawi. I know people that said, I went to Medina after Hajj and only got into the masjid like once. Every other time they had to pray outside. Because it's just so jammed up.
It's too much.
Yeah, it's like the same like in Ramadan. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ramadan, alhamdulillah, we were quite fortunate when we went to actually pray pretty much almost all of our prayers inside Masjid Nabawi.
Or getting into if getting into the Rawda in Medina when it's
that one was hard. I don't think we did we manage to pray in the Rawda that time?
Yeah, I'm sure we did.
Yeah.
Once. It's really
I think that one time we did.
You know something? Right now it's actually easier because you have to book a permit.
You have to book a permit now,
Yeah.
So the recent time
we talking about back when it was free for all, bro. Free for all.
You literally have to fight for it.
Left, right, center.
Yeah.
I used to make it a habit every day that I would go to the masjid like 2 hours before Fajr and work my way into the Rawda and then just stay.
Yeah, that's what you can have small tactics like that.
And pray right there in the Rawda after Fajr.
Yeah.
Because then after that you could also go by the Prophet's grave on your way out, and out that same door go to Baqi because that's where they take once they do the Janazah, they take them straight out that door by the Prophet ﷺ's house. So it's like you have, but that's experience. Going a few times, you figure out these little things.
Yeah. You'll figure out small tips and tricks. Inshallah, we will do another video soon on tips and tricks for Umrah. Small stuff like this we'll cover, inshallah.
And you need to go. And one good reason I say is like going with either a group or going with somebody who's had some experience before, because if not, like the first time I went, I missed a lot because I didn't have anybody telling me. You know what? I didn't realize that half the time you're walking around outside the gates like this, you just walked over Abu Bakr's house. You know what I mean? You just walked over Uthman's house. Because they've left no markers after they redid everything. So you're not realizing all this history that you're walking around and walking over that took place. Because literally the expanse of Masjid Nabawi now is the entirety of the city of Medina at the time. You know what I mean? Like once you walk off of that, the marble part of like you've literally left the old city of Medina.
Literally,
You know what I mean? Because going to what is the masjid? Quba. Going to Masjid Quba used to be like that's way out. You know what I mean? At the time of the Prophet, that was like a journey outside the city.
It feels like it's around the corner.
Now it's like a 10-minute taxi ride, It's big different. So, but not knowing that history, it's harder to see those things. Or you go to the Rawda and you don't understand what does the mihrab mean? What does why is there this raised platform in the middle of the masjid? So those things are good. Like all of those pillars of the old masjid actually have meaning as well. Like there's certain pillars that have certain colors on them because they have some historical significance behind them. Like this is where the angel Jibreel came and sat in front of the Prophet ﷺ in the hadith that he came to teach your religion. So going with somebody that has some experience is a beautiful thing because you come back with so much more information. Like now when I read the hadith of Jibreel, that famous hadith, I can, I sat in that spot.
Exactly.
I sat in that spot. I know where this took place. So you can kind of
so much more real, basically.
And it becomes more realistic to you.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so definitely if you go for the first time, we'd recommend that you go with a tour, somebody who's knowledgeable, who knows the different,
histories behind the masjid.
And or it could just be somebody who's been a lot,
Because first time I went, I didn't have I went with a group, but it wasn't super experienced group, and like half the stuff I didn't realize till later on. Like the Garden of Fatima. I didn't realize that whole, raised, because I was wondering.
Yeah, I mean, even some of the stuff you're mentioning
all these
right
weird
now.
things, you know what I mean? Like, why is there a bookshelf right here and there's this raised wooden platform on the other side of where the Prophet ﷺ is buried, not realizing that used to be the Garden of Fatima, that was gifted to her.
Yeah.
So it was, not understanding those histories, and like, if I'd have known that, it would have taken me a little bit, it would have been a little bit
more
different.
deeper. It would be a bit more
deeper of an experience.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair, Brother Yusha, for coming and, giving your time.
It's my pleasure.
To, give your insight, your reflection.
And do some research yourself. Like, I think there's now some websites, good websites where you can go to and look at like the history of Mecca and the history of the Masjid in Medina and see some of those things that I'm talking about. Like, I think there was one website I saw where it explained every pillar in the Ottoman part of Masjid Nabawi and what does it mean? What does it signify? What happened here? What happened there? Yeah. And then you can actually, when you go there, see like, oh yeah, that's the one they were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, now like the information, the authentic, information is a lot more easily accessible.
It's a lot more easily accessible.
We actually.
Then the first time I went in 2003, it was like, it wasn't.
Exactly.
There was not even social media back then.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So it was quite different. You weren't Snapchatting on. You didn't see almost anybody on the phone.
Yeah. That's another topic.
Now you make tawaf, bro. It's like
you're half there, you're half not there. Yeah, no,
everybody's got phones and flashing cameras. It's rough now.
Yeah, so that's actually another advice that to take.
Leave all that stuff, man.
Leave. Flash your phone, then go.
I remember the first time I went. The only time I took my phone out at the Haram at all was before I went to do the farewell tawaf. Before leaving the city, I took so I wouldn't forget those memories. But that was it. Yeah,
no, definitely, because especially social media now. You can be in your room, but you're in another world. Yeah. So that's the last thing you want. You don't want to waste your
and just knowing those things. Like I said, just do some research beforehand, because you might not realize, like, the first time I went, I wasn't until like the third day there that I realized my hotel room, like the hotel we were at, was in the Haram. You know what I mean? Like it was considered part of the Haram.
So you pray in the room.
You play in the room. You still get the rewards as if you prayed in the Haram itself.
Yeah.
I think that was the old Hilton. Before they built the grand clock tower. That was there. That was actually, our rooms were still considered part of the Haram.
Okay, mashallah. All right, brothers, we're gonna end the podcast right now. Huge thanks to Brother Yusha to come join us in his limited time that he has in the UK. He's really busy. He's pretty much had events every single day. To think tomorrow he's back at it again. Inshallah. Just to find a few words from me. If you haven't already, make sure that you follow us on YouTube, subscribe to our channel, follow us on Insta, Twitter, Facebook. The link should be up here somewhere. So, inshallah, jazakallah khair. Until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.